Hi, I'm Giselle, and today I'm going to be talking to you about your immune system and some DIY herbal remedies that you can create teas from for your immunity. So let's talk about some of these herbs that are superstars for supporting your immune system. First, we have catnip. Catnip is great for inducing sweat and to relieve your fever. It's also a great antispasmodic, which means if you have one of those spastic coughs, that's going to help relieve some of that. It's great for congestion, and it is really great for helping you to sleep and giving you a deeper rest. It's great for joint pain too, so if you've got one of those fevers that are kind of making you feel achy, this is a great herb to use. The other herb that I like to use is cinnamon. Cinnamon is great because it gives a little bit of flavor to the tea that is comforting and warming. It's great when you are feeling kind of chilly from the cold. It as well as antispasmodic. It is an antiseptic, it's an antibacterial, it's an antifungal, so it's really great to get rid of all of those things. The thing about cinnamon though is that it is a uterine stimulant, so if you're pregnant you want to avoid that. The other herb that I like to use in conjunction with cinnamon, because it's a nice companion herb, is cloves. Cloves is also an antiseptic, antispasmodic, and it's going to help relieve some of the nausea if you have some nausea with your cold. Coriander seed is really great for joint pain. Echinacea is one herb that everybody has heard of. It is an absolute powerhouse herb and is well known for its medicinal qualities. It is all the antis. It's antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammation. It has so much to benefit you. The thing is that it might cause a little bit of dizziness if you take it in high doses. So you want to be careful. Elderberry, it's one of my favorite things to use in these DIY tea recipes because it lends a light fruity flavor. It also makes a great color through the herbs. The visual is part of the healing process, I believe. So elderberries, those are well known for their medicinal qualities as well. It's an antispasmodic, really great for a sore throat, really great for congestion, your cough. You might want to avoid it if you're pregnant because it is as well a uterine stimulant. Ginger root is another great herb for anytime you're feeling like you got a cold coming on. The first thing I do is get some ginger root, I slice it up, I put it in some hot water with lemon, and within a day I am not feeling sick anymore. It has a lot of vitamin C, it's a great source of potassium. It is great for soothing nausea. Licorice is another herb that I love to use, licorice root. If you don't like the licorice candy, like black licorice, don't worry. Licorice root is a lot more gentle on the taste buds. It's not as strong, and it lends just a nice little sweet flavor to the teas. It helps to kind of give a coat to the mucous membrane so that those viruses can't latch on. It's a great antibacteria. It's great for your sore throats. It's also an expectorant, so if you are really congested, it's going to help move that congestion through. The other herb that I like to use is peppermint. It's a vasodilator, which means that it expands your blood vessels, helping to relieve some of the fever and some of the inflammation that might be congesting you. It's a great analgesic. It's great for pain, so if you've got a little bit of achiness, things like that, it'll help. And finally, we have sage. Sage is one of my favorite herbs as well because it's a comforting herb. It is, however, very strong. It smells really strong. It gives a really strong flavor. So you'll notice in these recipes I kind of half the amount of the sage that I use. All right, so what is tea? Tea is, in the medicinal herb world, called an infusion, and it's basically just submerging an herb in hot water for a period of time so that all the volatile oils and all the great nutrients can get released into the water. There's a few things that you want to keep in mind when you're doing an infusion. First of all, the water should be just off the boil. It shouldn't be boiling hot water. The vigorously boiling water will disperse the volatile oils into the air. You want to make sure that when you fill your teacup full of that hot water, to also cover your teacup so that the steam is contained and condenses back into the tea. Now, these teas should be made fresh every day using fresh herbs. Don't try to reuse an herb bag. You want to use about 1 ounce of dried herbs to about 2 cups of water. Usually when you steep some tea, you're gonna steep it for about 5 minutes or so. For an infusion, you want to steep it a little bit longer just to give it that extra time time for the water to absorb all those great nutrients. So we usually recommend about 10 minutes for steeping. And the rest, if you have some left over, you want to put it in a cute little teapot. You want to cover that teapot so again the steam isn't coming out and it stays nice and warm through the day. If it does cool off, it's perfectly fine to drink, and you can even keep it in the fridge if you would like to have it cold. The following recipes are tasteful enough to have without any sweeteners. However, some of these sweeteners that I'm going to mention are really great for enhancing the tea's immune benefits. So honey is an obvious choice. There's a couple of reasons why honey is so great. One of the reasons is that you actually coat your throat with honey, and it helps to relieve some of that soreness that you might be feeling. It is also a cough suppressant, so if you're having a cough, it's great to help control that, especially before bedtime. You may want to avoid it if you're allergic to bees or pollen. You also want to avoid having honey that's adulterated with other syrups. So make sure that you're using an organic, local source honey. Stevia. Stevia is one of those herbs that is amazing. It is 40 times sweeter than sugar. Now you don't need to use a lot of stevia because it is so sweet. And if you use too much, you might have like a little bit of a bitter aftertaste. Start off with a little bit and then add to it if you need more. One sweetener I like to use, which isn't always thought about, is maple syrup. Maple syrup is just packed with all kinds of great minerals and nutrients for your body. So consider using maple syrup as well. Now granulated sugar is an obvious choice, and it's okay, but it doesn't really help your body recover from a cold the way that these other sweeteners do. And of course, artificial sweeteners should be avoided completely. So let's talk about tea recipes. Now you might be asking, well, why don't I just buy these teas at the store? And you certainly could, but I love making my own teas for a few reasons. First of all, it's fun. It's so much fun to see what's going into your tea bag. And the look of the herbs is beautiful, the smell of the herbs is amazing, and you have this great feeling of, I did this myself. Plus, you don't know what's in those commercial tea bags. And because of all the processing and the packaging and the handling, by the time it gets to you and into your teacup, it's become like tea dust. It's not the original herb anymore. Here's some tools you're gonna wanna have. First of all, tea kettle. Can't do it without a tea kettle. And then a teapot or pitcher. You also want something to cover your cup while you are steeping your tea, a tea strainer or a sieve, and a tea bag or reusable muslin bags. I like to use a funnel and a little pushing stick for moving my herbs through, and of course cute little containers. Then you also want to have a place to put your tea bag. You can use this tea bag multiple times if it's sitting on a container that is clean, but again, at the end of the day, you want to discard that tea bag. And I'm intentional about the cup that I use. Sometimes it's a fancy teacup, and sometimes it's a cup that brings back memories. Sometimes it's a cup that gives me an inspiration for the day. So pick your cup wisely. The first recipe I'm going to show you is anti-up herbal tea. This recipe will yield 1 ounce of herbs or 4 4-ounce cups of tea. 3 teaspoons of catnip, 3 teaspoons of coriander seed, 3 teaspoons of echinacea, 3 teaspoons of peppermint, 1.5 teaspoon of sage. This is a combination of some powerhouse herbs to bring out all the antis: anti-allergenic, antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral, antibiotic, antiseptic, anti-inflammatory, and antispasmodic. These herbs can help you sleep, aid your body in kicking out any type of invaders by stimulating your immune system and moving your lymphatic fluid while relieving your sore throat, your congestion, your cough, as well as reducing your fever. It is a must-have in preparation for the cold, flu, and virus season. This recipe is naturally caffeine-free. If you want to bring some caffeine into it, I recommend using some green tea leaf. And you can just add the tea leaf right into the recipe. I recommend about 4 teaspoons. This next recipe I call Sweet Home Comfort Tea because it's the cinnamon and the clove, everything that you need to really snuggle down and get cozy. This recipe yields 1 ounce of herbs or 4 4-ounce cups of tea, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 3/4 teaspoon of whole cloves, 1.5 teaspoons of coriander seed, 1.5 teaspoons of elderberries, 1.5 teaspoons of fennel seed, 1 teaspoon of licorice, 1.5 teaspoons of peppermint. This recipe is also naturally caffeine free. For this recipe, I would recommend using a black tea leaf to add some caffeine to it. About 4 teaspoons. All right, the next recipe is my Warm Heart, Warm Hands tea. The reason why I call it this is that all these ingredients are really great for increasing your circulation and giving you that warm, cozy feeling like you want to curl up on the couch with a blanket and read a mystery novel. This recipe yields 1 ounce of herbs or 4 4-ounce cups of tea, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of whole cloves, 1 teaspoon elderberries, 1 teaspoon ginger root. So that's it. These are my top 3 recipes for helping your immune system through the cold, virus, and flu season. I have also included a free handout of these recipes that you can print off. You can also print off my handout of all the herbs used in these recipes and all the functions that they have for your immune system, as well as some precautions you should consider. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.